All right, welcome back to our next unit in our advanced topics course, where we're going to spend a significant amount of time talking about probability, one of my favorite topics in mathematics. Um, for today, we're going to be learning to compare orally and in writing probability models and observe frequencies so I can determine in writing whether a given situation involving probability is a chance experiment. I'll know I've got it when I can identify chance experiments and find or estimate probability using a model or data from a chance experiment. Your vocab for today includes chance experiment, event, outcome, probability, and the sample space. A quick disclaimer, this unit is going to operate a little differently where many of the questions will be presented in a exploratory format, so just kind of getting you to generate some ideas and thinking rather than a fixation on accuracy, whether things are right or wrong. So in this case, we have four different spinners, and you are tasked with selecting the one that you think does not belong, and then a quick mathematical justification as to why you don't think it belongs. Um, I'll go first. I would say that this one does not belong to me because it is the only one that has three sections. However, you might be able to make a claim for another one. I'm sure you can make a claim for this one. This one looks slightly more different than the other three. This one has a similar ideology than the one that I had originally selected, so I'll leave that to you. You don't have to necessarily just pick one. You can identify all four and the reasons why they don't belong before proceeding into our next activity. Elena's Spanish class, they have a quiz every 2 weeks. Based on the description, rank the quizzes in order from worst expected grade to best. All right, so we have three different scenarios here. First quiz, second quiz, third quiz. Drag and drop the corresponding location or corresponding situations from a worst expected grade to a best expected grade. After doing that, for each of the three quizzes, explain why you think chance played a large or small role in determining Elena's score. What percentage of the questions do you think Elena will get right on each quiz? Explain your reasoning. Okay. Um, in each of these scenarios, a methodology or a thought process is explained for regarding Elena's attempt to perform on the quiz. All right, so make sure that you read through these before answering either of these questions. For the second and third quizzes, Elena did not look at the questions. Don't know if that's necessarily a good strategy. Explain why you think she might do better on one than the other. For the second quiz, the teacher made a mistake and each of the questions had two correct answers. The teacher accepted either of the correct answers for full credit. What percentage of the questions do you think Elena will get right on the second quiz with the new scoring? Explain your reasoning. Okay. There are, once again, no right or wrong answers to these, just answers within reason. If you're talking about a pizza, that's clearly incorrect. So long as you are stating an opinion, right? What percent of the questions are? I think 73%. And here is my rationale why. We're able to generate a conversation, which just brings us to our final activity for this unit. Han, Claire, Mai, and Kieran are inventing a game for the county fair. Players will spin a spinner, and if it points to the section labeled B, then the player will win a prize. Han says, I think this spinner is a good one. What do you think? Han creates a spinner with four sections. Claire says, I like the spinner, but I think people should be able to spin again if they don't win the first time. So Claire says, let's use Han's spinner, but we'll spin it twice. Mai says, what if we just make three sections like this? And Kieran says, I think it might make more sense if we just do two sections like this. I'd love to play Kieran's, as long as I win when it hits A. Put the proposals in order of the probability that a player will win using the method from least to greatest. And obviously there won't be a opportunity for you to explain your reasoning, but just think through your reasoning. Okay. the amount of sections that we partition a wheel spinner pie chart into designate the probability of that section being landed on. Remember, the entire circle represents 100%. You're going to have to obviously speculate with Kieran since we only have one section, but in both Han and Mai's spinners, we can actually deduce a percentage or a fractional value as to what's the likelihood of landing on each spinner. So organize those probabilities from least to greatest. Each student then writes a computer program to play the game using the method they suggested. The computer runs the program for a short time and reports the number of wins and losses. Use the results to estimate the probability of winning using each method. So in the case of Han, there are 4 sections, so that means that there is a 25% chance of winning. So within this type of results, right, if we wanted to calculate the probability, right, we would take the outcomes that we won 2,513 times over the total amount. So the total is not 7,516, but it is 7,516 plus 2,513, which would yield, I want to say, 10,019. And if you did some mathematical computations on that, we'll get 0.25, which is ironically 25%, or is it? Because there's a 25% chance in Hans Spinner that you'll be able to land on A, B, C, or D. All right, make sure you complete the final 3 probability percentages. Before answering our final slide for today's activity by talking to their friends, they figure out that a good probability for winning is about 1/5, since it will let enough people to win to draw in customers but not cost them too much for prizes. Which method fits this best? Before they settled on a spinner game, they considered other things at their booth. Which of these suggestions would be considered chance experiments? Right, and then you'll identify the one that you decide. And that is where we will pause, because next up is our enhancement opportunities. We have a lesson 1 summary here that you can read through to give you a little bit more context. But I suggest only reading through it after the fact, not before the fact. And I will see you in lesson 2.